Tonight I want to take you into the dark, into that place at the edge of the river where the forest leans over the water, into the flooded black lagoons and the twisting creeks and the shadowy trails where your flashlight beam never quite feels strong enough. We are going to talk about the deadliest animals of the Amazon rainforest. Not the deadliest on a list, not something from a textbook. I want to talk to you about the animals I have met face to face, the ones that make your heart pound in your throat, the ones that make the hair on your arms rise even when the night air is hot and heavy. And while I tell you these stories, you can drift. You can let your mind wander through this forest with me, feel that mix of fear and fascination, and slowly fall asleep with jaguars and anacondas and black caiman moving through your dreams. Let us start with the king of shadows. I remember one night on the river. The sky was so clear that the stars were bright enough to reflect in the water. The canoe slid over the surface like it was moving across a dark mirror. On both sides, the forest stood as a black wall. The sounds of insects and frogs were so loud it felt like the jungle was one giant living machine. We had a spotlight with us, one strong beam that we used to search the banks. We were looking for caimans, for nightbirds, for anything that moved. The beam cut through the darkness, sliding over roots, fallen logs, tangled branches. Then, for just a second, it touched something that did not look like mud or bark. It was a face, low to the ground, just above the roots. A wide head, short ears, pale whiskers, two eyes reflecting the light back as twin green fires. And then it vanished. The canoe rocked as I shifted my weight forward. "Go back," I whispered to the person holding the light. "Right there." The beam slid along the bank again. Roots, mud, a trunk, empty darkness, and then, suddenly, it found the eyes again. This time the animal did not move. It held eye contact, steady and calm, the head tilted slightly, as if in curiosity. Only then could I see the pattern on the fur. Those rosettes, those loose rosette spots that every child recognizes from pictures, but that feel very different when the animal is a real presence in the dark. A jaguar, lying there on the riverbank watching us. Jaguars in the Amazon rainforest are not like big zoo cats. Out here they are pure muscle and silence. When they walk, they do not make a sound. They can swim across rivers without fear. Their jaws are so strong that they can crush the skull of a caiman or bite straight through the shell of a turtle. The people of the forest respect them. Many indigenous languages have special names and stories for the jaguar. The jaguar appears as a warrior, as a guardian, as a spirit that moves between worlds. Sitting in that canoe, I could feel why. The jaguar could have vanished into the forest with a single leap, but instead it lay there half in shadow and just watched us. It was not afraid. It had no reason to be. In that moment, I knew that if it decided to come into the water toward us, we would be the ones in trouble. The jaguar is a perfect predator. Fast, strong, and above all, intelligent. It chooses when, where, and how to strike. People always ask if jaguars attack humans. The answer is that it is rare, but it does happen. There are stories from riverside communities, a fisherman walking back at dusk, a child who wandered too far into the forest, a hunter who followed a trail alone. Most jaguars want nothing to do with people. But a jaguar that has lost its fear, or one that is hungry, or old, or injured, can become very dangerous. What makes the jaguar so deadly is not only the power of its bite, or the sharpness of its claws, it is the way it uses the forest itself. This is an animal that can vanish into shadows that you thought were empty. It can follow you along a trail, and you will never know. It can watch you for hours, moving from tree to tree, always just outside your vision. I have walked along game trails, seen fresh jaguar tracks laid neatly on top of my own boot prints from the day before. That means the animal stepped exactly where I stepped, following my path, placing its paws in my footprints. That sort of thing makes you feel very small. And yet, even as your heart beats faster, there is a strange sense of calm. Because out here, you are not in charge. The forest decides. The jaguar decides. You are just another animal in the night. Now let me take you down into the water. The Amazon rainforest is not just trees and vines. It is an endless puzzle of rivers, streams, oxbow lakes, flooded forests, and secret blackwater lagoons. And in many of those dark waters lies another legend, heavy, muscular, and quiet. The anaconda. The first time I swam with a giant anaconda, I felt my entire sense of what is possible in nature shift. We were in a flooded forest, the kind of place where tree trunks rise straight out of the water. The surface was covered with floating plants, forming a green carpet. Below that, the water was dark and cold, and the bottom disappeared into mud and fallen branches. We had been told that this area was known for very large snakes, so we moved slowly, pushing the canoe through the plants. The air smelled like damp leaves and muddy water. Dragonflies hovered over our heads. Somewhere, unseen, a howler monkey roared, the sound echoing across the water like distant thunder. Then our guide tapped the side of the canoe. "There," he whispered. At first I saw nothing, just water and leaves. Then my eyes caught a pattern, a subtle shift in the way the plants rested on the surface, a slightly raised shape, round and smooth, almost like a log that was just under the surface. We drifted closer. The shape did not move. Very slowly, I slipped into the water. It closed over my chest, then my neck. It was cooler than the air, and instantly every sense in my body woke up. I could feel the plants brushing against my face, against my shoulders. I put on a mask and dipped my head under. There it was. a thick olive-green body stretching away into the murk, covered in dark, round markings. The body of the snake was as thick as the trunk of a small tree. It lay coiled on the bottom, partly buried in the mud. The head rested under the plants, just a couple of hand lengths from where my fingers were touching the water. I could see the eyes looking up at me, calm and unblinking. The green anaconda is one of the heaviest snakes on Earth. They are not just long, they are massive. A big one is like a living submarine, and they are built to kill in a very particular way. They are ambush predators. They wait in the water, half hidden, half still. When a large animal comes to drink or to swim, the snake strikes. It grabs with its teeth and wraps its huge coils around the body. People imagine that constrictor snakes crush their prey like a vice. The reality is more subtle and more frightening. Every time the animal exhales, the snake tightens a little more, not allowing the lungs to fill again. Breath by breath, the chest cannot expand. Blood flow is cut off. The heart struggles. The world goes dark for the prey animal, and then it is over. In the Amazon, anacondas can take down capybaras, caimans, even large wading birds. There are stories, old stories, about them grabbing people from canoes. I have never seen that, and I hope I never will. But just knowing that you are sharing the water with an animal that could treat you like a big mammal meal, that is enough to make you very aware of your place in the food chain. Underwater with that snake, we watched each other. I could see the movement of its tongue, sampling the water. I could see small fish darting around its coils, completely unconcerned, as if they were swimming through a fallen tree instead of a living predator. Time seemed to slow down. The only sounds were my own breath echoing in the mask and the distant calls of birds above. The snake did not attack. It did not move aggressively. In fact, it almost ignored me. I was of no interest. I was just another piece of strange debris floating near the surface. And yet, I never forgot that if I made one sudden move at the wrong moment, if I tried to grab it, if I disrespected the animal in any way, I could very easily become another story people tell about the river. That is the thing about the deadliest animals out here. They are not monsters. They are not villains. They are just very, very good at surviving, and they expect you to respect that. Now I want to bring you onto the forest floor, away from the big, famous predators and into the world of something that can kill with a single strike, without claws, without huge muscles. Just a head, a pair of fangs, and some of the most powerful venom in the entire region. The Bushmaster. There is a certain kind of fear that comes with walking through the forest at night with a headlamp. The beam of light shows you maybe a few meters ahead. Beyond that, there is just blackness. Roots, fallen branches, mud, termite mounds, leaves, everything looks like something you could trip over. Your boots sink into the soft earth. Sometimes you hear an animal crash away in the brush and you do not see it at all. On nights like that, you learn a kind of careful, patient walking. You look not only ahead, but down. You study each step. Because somewhere on that path, there might be a snake that absolutely does not want to be stepped on. The Bushmaster is the largest venomous snake in the Americas. It is a heavy-bodied pit viper with a broad head, a diamond-shaped pattern along its back, and a reputation that even the toughest forest people respect. Its venom is a complex cocktail that can break down tissue, disrupt blood clotting, and cause massive internal damage. A bite that is not treated very quickly can be fatal. One night, we were following a narrow trail between two creeks. The air was damp and full of the earthy smell of wet leaves and fungus. Tree trunks rose on all sides like pillars, disappearing into darkness. It had rained earlier, so every leaf and branch was shining with moisture. My boots squelched softly in the mud. The light of my headlamp cut a small tunnel through the night, and then, at the very edge of that beam, I saw a shape that did not look quite right. It was just ahead, across the trail, perfectly still, a thick, pale brown body with dark diamond shapes along it. The snake lay in a loose coil, its head slightly raised, pointing in our direction. I froze. Every sense in my body sharpened. "Bushmaster," I said quietly. The people behind me stopped. The forest seemed to hush. The snake did not move. It did not rattle, like a rattlesnake would. It did not lunge. It simply watched us, the way the jaguar had watched us from the riverbank. But there was no doubt in my mind. If one of us had taken one more blind step, if a boot had come down on that body, the story would have changed very quickly. What makes the Bushmaster so dangerous is that it is often very calm and very confident in its camouflage. It does not always try to escape. It trusts that its pattern and stillness will hide it. That means you can get very close without seeing it, until it is almost too late. People in the forest fear this snake for good reason. We backed away slowly, step by step. No sudden movements, no shouted words, just quiet respect. When we were far enough, we made a small detour, cutting a new path around the snake. For all we know, it stayed there all night, resting and waiting for a small mammal or a frog to make the mistake that we almost made. The deadly animals of the Amazon rainforest are very rarely interested in us. Most accidents happen when people do not see them or do not give them space. But when you know they are there, when you have looked into their eyes or watched their bodies pass silently across a trail, you never again think of the forest as a simple, peaceful place. You understand that peace here is built on a balance of power. Now, from the forest floor, I want to take you back into the water, but this time into a different world. Not the big open river, not the flooded forest, but the slow, murky creeks and pools where something invisible waits. Not with teeth, not with venom, but with pure electricity. The electric eel. Despite the name, this animal is not a true eel, it is a type of knife fish. But that does not matter when you are in the water with one. All that matters is what it can do with its body. The electric eel has special organs that can generate strong electric discharges. It uses low-level pulses to sense its environment, like a living radar. And when it needs to, it can unleash powerful shocks that can stun or even kill other animals. I remember wading through a shallow creek one afternoon. The water was up to my thighs. The bottom was soft mud, with fallen leaves and branches. The water was cloudy, the color of weak coffee. You could not see more than a few hand lengths below the surface. We were moving carefully, feeling for each step with our feet. Local people had warned us that electric eels could be present in this creek. They told stories about fishermen who were shocked so badly that they fell into the water and drowned. They described the feeling like being hit by a bus made of lightning. Muscles lock up. You cannot move. In the wrong situation, that can be deadly. We formed a line and moved slowly, probing ahead with long sticks. The forest around us was quiet, in that heavy way that sometimes comes before a rain. Insects called, but far away. There was no breeze. The air felt thick, almost solid. I remember the exact feeling in my body. Every hair on my arms was raised. My heart rate had picked up, not from exertion, but from anticipation. There was a sense that at any moment, something could surge up from that muddy water and turn my entire nervous system into a ringing alarm. One of the men ahead of me stopped and lifted his stick. He had felt something. We did not see the animal clearly, just a thick, dark shape sliding through the brown water, almost like a shadow. But the way everyone stiffened told me it was there. We backed up and gave the creek more space. Electric eels usually do not go after people. They are hunting fish, small mammals, sometimes birds that splash into the water. But if you step on one, or trap it in a corner, or handle it with your bare hands, it will defend itself with its full power. Repeated electric shocks in the water can disorient you, knock you off your feet, cause your muscles to seize. And in a remote place, far from any medical help, that can be as dangerous as a venomous bite. What struck me most about the electric eel was that it was a different kind of power. With a jaguar or an anaconda, you see the muscles, you see the teeth. With the bushmaster, you know there are fangs loaded with venom. But with the electric eel, all of that deadly force is hidden inside an ordinary-looking body. The danger is invisible, transmitted through the water itself. It makes you feel very small to stand in a creek and know that at any moment the water around you could suddenly come alive with electricity. And now, let us meet one more giant of the dark waters. An animal that looks like it was carved out of a nightmare. A massive reptile with armored skin, eyes that sit high on the head, and a mouth full of thick, crushing teeth. The black caiman. The first time I saw a truly large black caiman, I was in a small wooden canoe on a still, black lagoon. The water was like ink. The surface was so calm that it perfectly reflected the trees and the sky, so that when you looked down, you felt like you were floating between two forests, one above and one below. We were moving slowly, our paddles dipping in and out with barely a sound. This was the realm of the caiman. You could feel it. Then the spotlight hit two eyes shining orange at the far edge of the lagoon. Just two small points of light at first. Slowly, as we approached, the shape below those eyes began to reveal itself. The head was enormous, broad and flat, with a heavy snout and ridges over the eyes. The nostrils sat right at the top of the snout, perfectly placed so the animal could breathe while almost entirely submerged. Each scale along the skull looked thick and ancient, like armor plates carved from dark stone. As the caiman lifted slightly in the water, more of the body became visible. A long back covered in heavy, raised scutes, a tail that tapered away into darkness. The animal was easily several meters long, a true old ruler of that lagoon. Black caimans are apex predators in many parts of the Amazon. They eat fish, birds, mammals, even other caimans. There are stories from local communities about them taking dogs, pigs, and sometimes, tragically, humans who get too close to the water at night. A big black caiman has the power to drag a grown person under the surface and hold them there with ease. We drifted closer than most people would consider wise. Out there, in the wild, you learn to read body language. The caiman stayed mostly still, but you could see the eyes tracking us, a slight shift in the head, a gentle ripple along the back. Then, in an instant, the animal vanished. No warning, no splash. One moment it was there, huge and solid and real. The next moment the water where it had been was just a dark, empty patch, with only a few expanding ripples to say that anything had moved at all. Now imagine that animal in a muddy river at night, in a place where people fish and bathe and travel in small boats. Imagine sliding your hand into the water to grab a net, not knowing that directly below the surface, that wide head is waiting. When you understand that, you understand why so many riverside communities have stories about the black caiman as a monster, a guardian, a punisher. It is not just an animal in their world, it is a presence. But here is the strange part. As dangerous as all these animals can be, I have never felt hatred toward any of them. Fear, yes. Respect, absolutely. But not hatred. In fact, I feel more afraid for them than of them. Jaguars are losing their habitat to cattle ranches and roads. Anacondas are killed by people who fear them or want to sell their skins. Bushmasters die when forests are cut down and fragmented. Electric eels and black caimans are affected by pollution, overfishing, and the destruction of wetlands. The deadliest animals of the Amazon rainforest are not stalking us in our cities. They are not planning to invade our world. They are simply trying to live in theirs, while our world pushes harder and harder into their territory. there have been moments, out there in the dark, when I have felt that deeply. One night I was walking along the edge of a newly cleared field. On one side there was the raw, broken land, stumps and churned earth, smoke still rising from burned trunks. On the other side, the forest stood like a wall. Somewhere in that line of trees, a jaguar watched. I could feel it, the way you sometimes feel eyes on you without seeing them. On the muddy ground in front of me, there were tracks. A jaguar had crossed that open field recently. Maybe the animal had followed the same path for generations, back when the entire area was forest. Now, suddenly, half of its world was gone. The trail that once moved through shadow now crossed bright, open space. Who was more dangerous in that picture? The cat that still hunts with tooth and claw, or the machines that can scrape away hundreds of years of forest in a single season? I think about that when I remember the bushmaster on the trail, or the anaconda resting in the flooded forest, or the black caiman floating in the lagoon. These animals can kill, yes, but they also keep the forest in balance. They control populations of prey. They shape the behavior of other animals. They are part of an ancient network that has kept this place alive and vibrant for ages. As you lay there drifting toward sleep, with my voice in your ears, I want you to feel the weight of that balance. Picture a jaguar slipping silently along a riverbank under the stars. Picture a green anaconda resting in a bed of underwater plants, feeling the vibrations of fish moving above. Picture a bushmaster coiled across a leaf-strewn path, sensing the faint heat of a rodent passing by. Picture an electric eel gliding through a cloudy creek, sending out pulses of electricity to map its world. Picture a black caiman lying perfectly still at the surface of a black lagoon, eyes just above the water, taking in every movement around it. These are not monsters from another planet. They are part of the heartbeat of the Amazon rainforest. There have been times, after long nights in the field, when I returned to camp at dawn, soaked with sweat, mud on my boots, mosquito bites burning on my skin. The sky would be turning pale. Birds would begin to call, one after another, until the forest was full of sound. I would lie down in a hammock, close my eyes, and feel my body finally relax. In those moments, with sleep just beginning to pull me under, my mind would replay all the images from the night. Eyes in the dark, coiled bodies, the flash of scales, the silent slide of a tail disappearing into water, and instead of fear, what I would feel most strongly was gratitude. Gratitude that these animals still exist. Gratitude that there are still places on Earth where a human being can feel small and vulnerable and amazed. Gratitude that the world has not yet become so tamed and controlled that there is no room for jaguars and anacondas and black caimans. So as you fall asleep, I invite you to carry that feeling with you. You are safe in your bed. There is a roof over your head, walls around you, maybe a soft blanket. But out there, far away, the night forest is alive. The river is flowing. Somewhere a jaguar is moving through the shadows. Somewhere an anaconda is resting in cool water. Somewhere a bushmaster is waiting silently beside an old trail. Somewhere an electric eel is gliding like a ghost through muddy water. Somewhere, a black caiman is lying in a lagoon so dark that the stars seem to float beside it.